Feminism, a term that means many things to many people. But what does feminism mean to you? Consider the beginnings of the movement. What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Is it the suffragettes and their fervent crusade for equality, black and white photos of rallies and protests? Or do you think of specific people like Emily Davison, or landmark events such as women fighting for the right to vote? You can track the route of women's emancipation more than 1400 years to the beginnings of Islam and the Prophet Muhammad.
Islam came at a time to a society that was engaged in the worst types of degradation of women.
1400 years ago, Arabia was not a very nice place for women at all.
They were still considered as part of the guardian or the property of the family or the tribe.
Women at that time had no rights. They were treated as possessions.
Women not having rights to property, women being consigned almost to the domestic sphere. A lot of female infanticide, that is girl babies being killed at childbirth.
Women didn't have a very good status in 7th century Arabia. They weren't treated as equals.
The world was introduced to Islam in the 7th century, and with it came many progressive reforms that improved the lives of women and girls and societies as a whole.
The practices and the laws introduced by the Prophet were revolutionary in that for the first time women were given rights.
The women are not anymore part of the tribe or the family in the sense that she is governed only by them. Rather, she has to be covered by her own thinking.
So one of the first things we did was women could come and listen to his lecture sessions.
Because of his intervention, women were allowed to inherit property, they were given rights, they were allowed to have an education.
Finally, after a long time, women had access to the processes of knowledge.
They were given the right to marry, they were given the right to divorce, they were given the right to inherit.
Women were given the right to vote, women were said you could keep your property, women did not have to change their name after getting married.
The main goal of Islam is to introduce justice in human relations and parity between the sexes.
One of the doyens of the feminism and women's rights in Islam was Umara, who worked in synergy with the Prophet Muhammad in many crusades and battles. She was known for her tenacity and courage and was the first woman to ask the Prophet why revelations of the Quran only addressed men.
Prophet Muhammad had strong women in his life, and Prophet Muhammad knew that women were valuable in society.
One of the main sources of Islamic law is Hadith, the Sunnah, the tradition of the Prophet as narrated in Hadith. And women were among the main narrators of Hadith. You know, Aisha, the wife of the Prophet, was a major figure.
And she was there, this young lady with an amazing, amazing memory that allowed her immediately to record everything that she saw and she heard.
Aisha was not only narrated what the Prophet has done or what the Prophet had said, but she was also mainly making some decision at the time and policy.
Our rules around the hijab, around eating, drinking, the everyday mechanics of everyday life. Basically, it was Aisha who captured all of this.
And the Prophet is quoted as saying that if you want the best person to go to in terms of knowing your religion and in terms of needing information on your religion is Aisha.
During his lifetime, the Prophet Muhammad took counsel with and encouraged over 600 female scholars, warriors, nurses, businesswomen, teachers, and students. He professed that women's rights were sacred and must be promoted.
In everything he did, you can see this notion of equality, this notion of respect for women.
Well, Muhammad was an agent of change, no question about it.
So, when it comes to the roots of female emancipation, the solution didn't start and stop with the suffragettes or other modern feminist movements. Far from it. As with most societal problems, you only have to turn to religion to find the right answers.